have that moment, fellow booktubers, where you have been filming for like 20 minutes and then you realize that your fucking mic was off the whole time, so I have to refilm all of it. Love that. Now I'm ruining my hair. Hey, hi, hello, my name is Tay, and today, clearly, I'm doing my April wrap-up. Yay! I have 7 books to talk to you about today. 6 of them I read and 1 of them I DNF'd. So theoretically this will be not a long video, but I also have some feelings about the books that I'm talking about, so if this is really long, yikes, sorry. The first book I read was Wilder Girls by Rory Power. This book is set on this island that has an all-girls boarding school called Raxter, and this school has been quarantined for the past year and a half because this disease called a tox got out on the island and has infected all the plants, it's infected all the animals, and it's been infecting the people. This disease is not your typical pneumonia, cancer, that kind of stuff. I don't know why I said cancer like that. When this disease infects you, it changes your body. I feel like this disease is easiest if I give examples. One person, when they get the tox, gets a second spine that like bursts through their back. There's someone who has 2 heartbeats. There's someone whose arm turns scaly and silver. There's someone who lost an eye. There's someone with gills. Like, it's very body horror-esque. This follows our 3 main characters, Hetty, Byatt, and Reese, as they basically just try to survive and uncover secrets of the disease, the island, and other things that have been kept from them. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. The concept is really cool. The writing is very good for this style of book. It's very creepy and eerie and kind of feels suspenseful no matter what point of the book you are. Like, they could just be eating food and you feel like something's about to come and eat them because it just keeps you on your toes the whole time. I thought the use of gray morality with everything, like all the characters and the decisions that are made, was really well done. I loved seeing that. There's a female romance, which was... There were just a few things with the plot and with a specific character, with their development, that I just felt could have been handled better. But obviously I can't tell you why or what it is without spoiling you, so just know that I didn't think this book was perfect, but I still really enjoyed it. This book comes out in July. I got an e-arc from NetGalley to review it, and I will have a full review that will have a non-spoiler half and a spoiler half up, so look out for that. And if you want to hear some other thoughts with it in conjunction to some other queer feminist horror books, I have a whole video on that, and it's pretty fun, so I'll put that up here. I have no idea which side the cards go on, so I'm just pointing both ways. The second book that I read was the one that I DNF'd, and that was Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. This book basically follows a governess named Agnes Grey as she goes to different charges and is just trying to make her way in the world. It's supposed to be kind of a discussion on how governesses and women are treated and stuff like that. Obviously, I wasn't a fan of this book considering I DNF'd it. I DNF'd it at like 40%, I think. I was just bored. I was just not enjoying it at all. Nothing was happening when I was reading it. I felt like there was no real plot. It just felt like the same thing over and over again as she went to each of the different charges. And I know that a lot of classic books don't have as much like action or like plot-based books. They're usually more character based from what I know, but this just had absolutely no plot, which wasn't like a good idea. And also the problem with it being a character-based plot is that would require me to care about the character, and I did not like Agnes Grey as a character. She was very flat. She was so self-righteous. Anytime anyone did anything she didn't agree with, she just thought about how she was better than them because she was a woman of God, but she wouldn't judge, and like it was her duty to help these lesser poor people to see the light of God. And like, it was just, ugh, I was so annoyed at all points because like even when other people were being jerks to her, she was just so annoying that I didn't care. And all the other characters were purposefully made very one-dimensional and archetypal so that she looked better. She was just very hypocritical, very self-righteous, and I just didn't like this book, so I just DNF'd it because I figured it's not worth my time to be reading, or in this case listening, to a book that I am not enjoying, that I'm annoyed at when there's so many other books that I want to read. And by the way, this isn't me saying that I don't like classics, that I'm not going to read any more classics. In fact, a few days ago I read Pride and Prejudice, which I'll talk about next month, and I really liked that book, so this is not me saying that I'm not reading classics. This one just was not for me. Third book. This one's gonna be a doozy. The third book I'm gonna be talking about was Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. If you live under a rock or have been in a coma or just want to hear my voice for a few seconds longer, basically this book is a fictional oral history, so like an interview format, talking about the rise and the fall of a popular 70s rock band called Daisy Jones and the Six, as you can guess. I read some of this book and I listened to some of this book, so I think I got a good mix of the two. The audiobook took a little bit to get into just because I didn't start with the audiobook, so I wasn't used to everyone's voices and I couldn't tell them apart right away, but I got used to that pretty fast and it got easier. I gave this book, oh god, I'm so scared of you guys. Here's where we get a little bit controversial, because I gave this book 2.5 to 3 stars. I know I'm one of like 5 people in the world that I know of that don't like this book, but like when I tell you I wanted to like this book, I really did want to like this book. And initially I honestly gave it a higher rating because I wanted to like it so bad that I forced myself to believe that I'd enjoyed it. As someone who's recently read Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and I'm going to talk about that book next month, I felt like all of the things that Evelyn Hugo did right to get me engaged in the characters, in the gray morality, all of that stuff, Daisy Jones didn't do for me. A lot of the characters felt very archetypal, forgettable. Ones like P and Warren and Graham. Don't remember anything. I know one of them was Billy's brother, and they were like shadowed by him. And then Eddie, all I knew about him is that he was fucking annoying and I hated him. Even Daisy and Billy were their own kind of archetypes of characters and celebrities that we've seen many times before. The only character I really cared about was Camilla. And sort of Karen. I did care about Karen. Whenever someone made a shitty decision, I felt like it wasn't challenged enough a lot of the times. I know there was some stuff with like, there was a lot of stuff with cheating that was just kind of glossed over and like not really like explicitly said as like, this is a bad thing. And I felt like that's not good. Like, you should be more specific, like, hey, this is shitty. We get now that we were shitty. But instead, they just, like, talked about how it made them sad. And I was like, no, you were cheating. What? No. Yeah. I just felt like so many of those kind of shitty things that happened, they weren't challenged enough. There wasn't, like, a good reason or motivation for them to have done it. It was just, like, they did it because, I guess. I think another thing is, I'm genuinely not sure about this. So I'm going to ask this question, like, genuinely, this is not, like, a rhetorical question or a me being mean question, but were people shipping Daisy and Billy? Or were they like invested in their relationship, like whether it was just like about the romantic tension or platonic or like wanting them to be together? Were people shipping them? Because I feel like the book wanted me to do that, or at least like feel invested in it even though I wasn't supposed to let it happen. And I just didn't care. I didn't feel like I was supposed to get attached to a relationship that would be built on cheating and that they talked about over and over and over again would be really unhealthy for them in several ways. I don't know, guys. This one was just, it was just a 2.5. It was a very average book. Like, 2.5 is exactly the middle between 0 or 1 and 5, 0 and 5, then I think I gave this a 2.5 because it just, some things were kind of interesting to me, but I just wasn't invested in anything. And I ended the book and I was like, okay, that was it. So yeah, there's that. Y'all can come fight me in the comments if you want, I don't know. The next book that I'm talking about is The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This book is also a very popular one on BookTube, but it's a little bit of an older one. This book, basically, is about this girl named Blue Sargent who lives in a family of psychics, but she herself is not psychic. And she meets this group of boys who go to the local private school, who are like the Raven Boys is what she calls them, and she becomes friends with them and gets involved in their quest to find a dead Welsh king. It sounds really weird, like when I put it like that, but I can't explain any more because this is a book that you just have to like unfold as it goes. Okay, this is one of those books. Sorry if the angle just changed, my phone fell over. I gave this book 4.55 stars, rounded up to a 5. Oh my god, I love this book. The writing is like so beautiful and like ethereal and whimsical. I don't know, I can't describe it properly. It's just like Maggie Stiefvater just really knows how to write. This book, I felt like, just wove contemporary and fantasy so well together that like felt like something that could be happening in our world, which like I love. And the characters. Oh my god. The characters. When people talk about like comparing all found family characters to like Raven Boys or to Six of Crows, which I haven't read yet, but I swear to god I promise I'm going to. Now I understand what they mean, because oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, like...
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Listen, the thing about this book is that I feel like it snuck up behind me and then just like stabbed me in the back with like love. With like if this is like Cupid's arrow, but it's like a knife, it just like stabbed me in the back. This is such a weird analogy. I'm just gonna move on. Because I remember I was reading this book and I was listening to it, and I was just lying in bed, and then suddenly I realized that I was tearing up. And like nothing sad was happening. It was just my favorite characters were talking, and I just loved them so much. So I was just laying there like in near tears because Richard Gansey Campbell III was speaking. Oh my god. I will say, if you're someone who doesn't like books that don't have a lot of really intense plot, you might not enjoy this, because this is a much more like slow-paced, character-driven plot, which I was totally fine with because I would literally watch these characters eat cereal for 400 pages. But if you're someone who can't handle a book that doesn't have a really solid, like, fast-moving plot or really plot-focused book, this one might not be best for you. But again, I still highly recommend it. Please just, like, try it out. And if you want to listen to an audiobook, the narrator, Will Patton, is really good. He really does the characters justice, and oof. Oof, I'm like tearing up thinking about it, don't look at me. So yeah, and then the next book I read was The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. This is the second book in the Raven Cycle series. This one has some trigger warnings and content warnings for a lot of drug and alcohol use, and also for some violence and death. This one I gave more like 4 stars. The reason why I didn't give this one 5 stars is just there are some things that I just couldn't quite look over that made it a little less enjoyable for me to read. Most of that was, first of all, the character of Kavinsky. Like, in some ways he was an interesting character, but I also couldn't figure out his motivations. And I feel like the point of him was not to have motivations, but it also like bugged me that I wanted to know why. Also, this isn't Will Patton's fault, but Will Patton gave him a really annoying voice, which was intentional, but it just made me hate him more. So every time he appeared on page, like in my headphones, I was like, oh my god, please shut up, I hate you. And the other thing is, there's this one character, I'm not gonna say who because I don't want to spoil, but there's one character who gets developed, like kind of changes sides throughout the book, and I just felt like it wasn't handled quite well. Like, I liked the character by the other books when they're in the books, I liked them more, but I just felt like I missed a middle part. I felt like there should have been more development with their turn from one side to the other. But again, I still love the characters in this, like my baby Ronan. Like, the first book I liked Ronan, I loved him still, but like this one I was like, oh my god, Ronan, my baby, my heart, my soul. And then my baby Adam, my sad baby who I want to protect, and then Gansey and Blue.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get in.
No one ever, like, literally, it's like, I am such trash for these 2 freaking babies. Like, it's not good. Like, literally they would be like in the same room and I would be like tearing up. I'm so trash. Ugh. I have a lot of feelings. That's just all I can say about this book. The next book that I read was Check Please by Ngozi Ukazu. This, if you don't know, is a webcomic that has now started to be published into like book volumes. And it follows our main character, Eric Biddle, who's known as Biddy, and he is going to this new school, and he used to be a figure skater, but now he's joining the hockey team. And then life ensues, and it's gay as fuck, and girl. The thing with this book, I give it 5 stars. I don't know if, like, technically wise, like, in terms of, like, plotting and did everything work well, if it should get 5 stars, because I logically know that there were some things that like should have been handled a little bit differently, but also, do I care? No. What I care about is my tiny baby Bill, all those adorable side characters, fucking Jack, oh my god, I have feelings. Like, this book just kept reminding me that I'm bi. I don't know if other people who are like attracted to more than one gender can relate to this, but like sometimes I'll just be like, do I really like boys? And then I'd like look at Check Please and it'd be like, ah shit, I like boys. The relationship in this, which is a male-male romance, pure shit. Like, am I ever gonna find such a pure, honest, loving relationship as this one? I don't know. But yeah, I've read everything that webcomic has out now, so that's kind of like volumes 1, 2, and 3. So I don't know if this counts as 3 books, but like, I feel bad counting it as 3 books because I read it in one night. So the last book I read this month is the only one that I have in print because, again, I never read things in print, and that is A Curse so Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kimmerer. This book I've talked about a couple times, I think. I know I've talked about this before on my channel, so I'll probably put a card up. This book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It follows 3 main characters. The first is Prince Ren, who is the heir to the throne in this kingdom called Emberfell, and he has been cursed to relive the autumn of his 18th birthday over and over and over again until he can get someone to fall in love with him. Then we have Harper, who does not live in Emberfell. She lives in Washington, D.C., which are like their separate worlds. And she's had a tough life, to put it simply, and she gets whisked up into Ren's world, and you know how stuff goes. It's Beauty and the Beast. And the third character that the back doesn't talk about, but like I love him, so we're gonna talk about him, is Gray, who is Ren's guard and the one who's literally the last person left, and who's in charge of trying to help him break the curse by finding girls to come and fall in love with him, maybe. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy it. This is the first book I've ever tabbed, so I think that I tabbed it too much. But also, like, it's my book, I can do what I want. Some trigger warnings, content warnings for this. There is suicide in this book. There's mentions of past suicide. There's an attempted suicide, and there's some suicide ideation. There's also some torture. There's violence and gore and death. And there's also some body horror, mostly with Prince Ren turning into a beast. So, how I felt about this book. This broke some stereotypes with the Beauty and the Beast retelling in what other plot they had in it, how they handled the curse, things like that, that I found really refreshing, that I really enjoyed, that made it feel less archetypal. Also, Harper has cerebral palsy in this book. I do not personally have cerebral palsy, so I can't speak for the rep on a personal note, but from the people that I've watched or read reviews of and that kind of stuff, this seemed like pretty good representation. And even in the back of the book, the author makes a small note about the cerebral palsy and saying that like capabilities of people with cerebral palsy changes from person to person, and like links a website that you can go to learn more about cerebral palsy. So I thought that was a really neat thing for her to do. I definitely enjoyed the writing. I thought it was, it wasn't like mind-blowing writing, but it was good writing. And I thought that the plot was also well done, that it expanded the story to be not just will this girl fall in love with this boy, that it expanded it to like the whole kingdom and issues with that. For the most part, I also enjoyed the characters. Gray never did anything wrong, love of my life, would literally murder anyone for him. Ren took a little bit to get into, because in the beginning he's just very kind of broody and kind of a dumb bitch. But I did eventually start to love him. He just took a little bit to warm up to, which might have been the point, but it took me a little longer to be like invested in him and wanting him to succeed. Harper I really liked for the most part. I thought that she was a very strong character, but could also, you know, cry. She could also be emotional, be afraid, but didn't always let it stop her, which I thought was really nice. Sometimes though I felt like Harper's characterization was a little bit off. As I mentioned before, this isn't a spoiler or anything, but she lived in Washington, D.C., which is like, has some rough stuff going on. Her mom's dying, her brother is tied up with these bad men because of things her dad did, so like she knows about bad things, like she's been involved in bad things, and yet sometimes she just seemed a little too innocent for that. She also sometimes didn't understand like concepts or terminology or things, and I felt like the only reason they'd done that was so that Ren had an excuse to explain it so the reader knew, which I felt like was a little bit lazy, because I felt like Harper would have understood some of those things. Like, some of the things I get that she might understand. I get that maybe she doesn't know how many people are in a battalion, because I don't know how many people are in a battalion, but I felt like some of the things she should have been able to figure out okay, or like that she was like willfully ignorant or naive about things that I felt like she wouldn't have been naive about, because she's literally had to deal with like thugs and hitmen. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. The like climax and the final section of this book was like so engaging. I was meant to just like stop reading when I was, because I was buddy reading, and instead I finished it because I was just so engrossed. So I did really enjoy this. I definitely recommend it. The sequel to this book, I think it's A Heart So Fierce and Broken, comes out next January. Will be honest with you, didn't know it had a sequel, so I had to deal with the fact that this has a bit of a cliffhanger and knowing that I have to wait like 8 months to read the next book. So like, we love that. Okay, that is it for all of the books that I read, listened to, etc. in April. You guys know the drill. If you read any of these books, let me know your opinions on them. If you want to argue with me about Daisy Jones and the Six, I'm ready, I'm prepared, I've got my armor on. If you agree with me on Daisy Jones and the Six, please tell me, because I know of like 4 people who didn't like this book, and I just need someone to validate me. If you like this video, click the like button. It's pretty obvious. If you want to see more from me, click subscribe, and if you want to be more often notified of when I post new videos, you can click the little bell icon, and then you'll actually know when I make new videos. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye!